You're watching Reality Check. It took the TV anchor Arnab Goswami just one day to apply for and get bail from the Supreme Court. While granting him bail, the court made strong observations over the failure of the high courts to protect personal liberties of individuals, forcing citizens to approach the top court for relief. This raised expectations that these principles would apply to several other individuals, many of them critics of the government, who struggled for hearings or bail. Today, the bail plea of Siddique Kappan, a Kerala journalist arrested by the UP police while on his way to report the Hathras incident, came up before the Supreme Court. The court said that they were trying to discourage Article 32 petitions. Article 332 is a provision of the Constitution which pertains to the powers of the Supreme Court to provide relief if fundamental rights are violated. When Mr. Kapil Sibal, representing the petitioners, referred to the past instances of the articles used, the court said that they would issue a notice to the UP government seeking their response, while also saying that they may still send the case to the High Court. Now, these are not isolated instances. Just consider the following. Arnab Goswami, an abetment to suicide case, granted hearing in one day, bail status, released, in jail for just 7 days. Sudha Bharadwaj, in the Bhima Koregaon case, bail status denied, in jail for 812 days. Varavara Rao, also in the Bhima Koregaon case, bail status denied, also in jail for 812 days. Anand Teltumbde, the activist, again, bail status denied, in jail for 189 days. Stan Swamy next, again in the Bhima Koregaon case, bail status denied, in jail for 112 days. Prashant Kanodia, a journalist, jailed for a quote-unquote offensive tweet. He was finally released on bail after being in jail for 64 days. Samit Thakkar, again in jail for quote-unquote offensive tweets against the Maharashtra Chief Minister. Bail status granted, in jail for 23 days. The petitions against detentions in Jammu and Kashmir, no early hearings for these petitions. Of the 554 habeas corpus petitions before the Jammu and Kashmir High Court, a judgment in only 5% of the cases. This has meant that mainstream political leaders in Jammu and Kashmir like Mehbooba Mufti in detention for 436 days, Omar Abdullah for 233 days, and Farooq Abdullah in detention for 222 days. All right, joining us tonight on Reality Check, I spoke earlier to Sriram Panchu, senior advocate in the Madras High Court. I'll get to him in just a second. But first, I have with me live Dushyant Dave, who is both a senior lawyer of the Supreme Court and the head of the Supreme Court Bar Association. And also joining me is Lalita Kumaramangalam, Director, India Foundation, member of the BJP. Now, Dushyant Dave, you actually wrote, in a sense, an open letter to the Chief Justice, where you pointed out about these worries, where you said, Mr. Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, that this was not about Arnab Goswami, you have nothing against him, but it was whether there was an equal principle that was being applied in cases when it comes to him, where he gets an immediate hearing and immediate bail, and several others where it doesn't.
That's correct. I did write that letter and now it's in public domain.
Yes.
Let me start with a very interesting observation. 200 years ago, a very wise American judge, Judge Cardozo, one of the most respected figures in the history of judiciary in the world. Judge Cardozo said once, and it's very interesting. He said, constitution of benches, different constitution of benches need not be reflected in judicial pronouncements. Now, this is what is happening today in the Supreme Court, that the judges take a diametrically opposite approach to matters. And this, therefore, is not the really Supreme Court of India which is speaking, but it is the Supreme Court of the judges which really is, deciding these matters. They differ sometimes on ideological considerations. They differ sometimes because some judges are conservative, some judges are liberal. they also differ many a times, because some judges defer to the executive and to the police, and some judges, test the matters in bail, particularly on pure merits. So I think there is a very, very serious, diverse approach amongst the judges, which really does not augur well for the institution, because it's a great court, it's the final court. And
but the question you raise is that you seem to imply that none of this can happen without the go-ahead of the Chief Justice. You ask, is there any special order or direction from the Chief Justice of India in this regard?
No, I won't like to dilate on that, but there is no doubt about the fact that the Chief Justice is the master of the roster. And when advocates on record are unable to get their matters listed through the registry, they have a right to approach the Chief Justice. In good old days before COVID, Chief Justice every morning would hear mentioning matters for 10-15 minutes, sometimes half an hour. And fix the matters depending on the urgency of the matter. Now that has stopped, unfortunately, during COVID, and the entire bar is left at the mercy of the registry, and registry in turn sometimes takes the directions from the Chief Justice. But the whole process is very opaque, and it's very difficult to understand what's really happening today. So Chief Justice does have power, and I have no doubt Chief Justice does exercise that power on selective basis.
Right. Lalitha Kumaramangalam, the point here is, and again just to clarify, that in the case of somebody like Arnab, and I've come out and said this publicly myself, that the way in which the Maharashtra government has gone after him really does smack of political vendetta. So that's not the point. The point is this whole question of the selective nature in which these cases are being dealt with, that when it comes to someone like him, who's such an open, supporter of this government, it's immediate hearing, immediate bail. All these other instances happen to be critics of the government or are, politically opposed to this government, and it's a very different story for them. Does this worry you, as it seems to be worrying many of the top legal minds in this country?
Vasu, first let me make one thing very clear, like almost a disclaimer. I'm not a lawyer. Though when Mr. Dushyant Dave was speaking, he almost sounded like what my father did in the early 70s when he said that you need a committed bench. Now, I don't know whether I agree with that or not, but as I said, since I'm not a lawyer, I speak more as an ordinary person who's looking at the courts for justice. Now, while I agree with you that all citizens should have equal rights, especially under the law, it's not just about journalists or politicians or activists, etc. Everybody should have it.
Yes.
There does seem to be an increasing tendency on the part of the courts, and I don't think this is just happening today. From what I remember, especially given that I come from a family of lawyers, except for myself, I think, this has been going on for a very long time. It happened during the emergency.
What has been going on? Hold on. When you say it's been going on, what has been? Yes.
The claims that the judiciary is not committed, and I don't know what it means. I mean, in legal terms, quite frankly, it sort of goes above my head almost. That the judiciary picks and chooses the cases that it wants to address immediately and not. For example, let me give a case which didn't come up to the Supreme Court. When P. Chidambaram's son, Karthi Chidambaram, applied for emergency bail because he was afraid that he had to be, the police had asked for immediate arrest, since they said he was not cooperating on a particular case, the INX case, I think.
Right.
And this happened in the Tamil Nadu High Court. The judge, I think, sat till midnight, gave the bail immediately, and actually wrote the judgment herself. So in that case too, I think it was, some people seem to be more equal than others. In the case of Arnab versus other journalists, it's not for me to give reasons why the Supreme Court is doing something or not doing something. But yes,
but isn't it worrying? I'm not getting into reasons. I'm just saying simply, and it's not even Arnab versus other journalists. It's versus so many other instances of cases where the Supreme Court has just put it in cold storage. Or I'm not a lawyer, Vasu. Courts, not just the Supreme.
Like I said, I am not a lawyer, but I have heard it said that it also depends on under which law they have been booked. I have no idea why that should happen. But like I said, I am just an ordinary citizen speaking.
Okay, but let me just
it is true that increasingly the Supreme Court is being questioned. Right or wrong, it is for people
Okay.
of the likes
Dushyanth Dave,
Mr. Dave, who's a senior
right.
lawyer, who can
Dushyanth
question
Dave,
them.
okay.
Not for me.
Dushyanth Dave, would you like to respond to the point that this is not new, this has always been the case, or are you finding something worryingly new and unusual about this particular time with what's happening?
No, there is no doubt about the fact that in the Supreme Court, I have been in Supreme Court since 1986, and there is no doubt about the fact that there are some people who get priority in listing and hearing of cases and in getting justice, and there are many who don't get that priority. That's happening. I agree with Lalita ji that this has been going on for a long time. It has nothing to do with party in power. I think the Supreme Court needs to really seriously address this issue.
Okay.
The fact of the matter is that, liberty is important for every citizen. And Article 32, Ambedkar had said at the end of the Constituent Assembly debate that if I had to put my finger on one article which is the heart and soul of the Constitution, it is Article 32. It is therefore sad that Supreme Court doesn't understand the very importance, that power under Article 32, and wants to relegate people, citizens, when habeas corpus or detention matters are filed or bail matters are filed, to relegate the parties to high courts. I think that's really, I would say, extremely disappointing, and it reflects very, very poor understanding of the Constitution and the principle behind constitutional morality. So I think to that extent, there is a big problem right now. I think the Supreme Court, this decision and the controversy which has been in public debate, which has arisen following Mr. Goswami's matter, I really hope and pray that Supreme Court judges, all judges together, not the Chief Justice, they all sit together and really apply their mind to find some solution to this, charge which is not baseless and which is being raised again and again.
Do you think that's realistically going to happen?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's not been happening for a long time. I have been saying this publicly for a long time that people who have power are able to get justice quickly in Supreme Court, and people who are not having that kind of power, whether it's financial power or political power, they are definitely standing in queue and cold storage for a long, long time.
Sure. Lalita Kumar, would you, look, as you said that we don't know the reasons and all of that, but isn't there something which is, in a sense, as you yourself said, that there's a history to this happening, and that history is marked by instances where the judicial process tilts towards whoever is in power or not. And we saw that, we saw that during the emergency. Why would it be any different this time?
Well, we even saw it after the emergency. For example, when Satya Pragya was held for how many years without even a charge sheet being filed. So I would agree with what Mr. Dave said, that
Sure. Okay, we'll just get you back in just a second. We'll just get you back in a second. Very quickly, Mr. Dave, while we get Lalita Kumaramangalam back, is there any way of actually trying to ensure this happens? You're saying is it entirely left as a matter of self-correction by the judiciary? There's nothing that, whether it's you, SCBA, citizens can do to...
I'm sad to say that I think no amount of public opinion has really weighed on the judges for a long time.
Okay.
And judges have refused to correct the system. This has been, as a president of the bar, I have written in my letter also that large number of lawyers have been complaining to me very bitterly about it. And I have
but it's not really...
I have brought it to the judges. But we are at their mercy. Yes, we are. There is no other option.
Okay. I think we have Lalita ji back. Lalita Kumaramangalam, are you back with us?
Yeah.
Okay. If you just like to quickly complete your point, because I have to go to Sriram Panchu. Yes.
Yeah, I was saying that I have been in the middle of law and politics from the time I was born, and people from different sides of the political spectrum.
Sure.
I've heard many of them criticize the judiciary, not just for their judgments, for sometimes the delays in giving those judgments, which is exactly, I mean, we're talking about a microcosm
Right.
of that. Secondly, I've also heard say, like I said, my father was one who introduced that whole bill in the early 70s,
Yes.
where he talked about a committed judiciary. And like
Right.
I mean, this is what it's almost sounded like what Mr. Dave was saying. But the fact is that, we need to also look at the way judges are appointed today.
Yes.
Something very important,
That is an important point. That is an important point about the appointment of judges. We have a bit of a glitch with your signal, but we'll get you back and we will get into this because this is a big unfolding story. But let's just thank for a second Dushyant Dave and Lalita Kumar Mangalam, because I spoke earlier, as I mentioned, to Sriram Panchu. Now, he is a senior lawyer practicing in the Madras High Court. He's also someone who's been on the Ayodhya mediation panel, and he doesn't really come out and speak much about issues pertaining to the public domain. But he did come out and write quite an anguished piece in the Hindu about this entire asymmetry in which justice appears to be delivered. Arnab, in a sense, versus the rest. And I spoke to him earlier today. Let's listen. Tell us, what is it about all of this that has agitated you to write a piece? You actually wrote a piece in the Hindu saying, "Protect our republic, my lords." What provoked you?
Thank you, Srinivasan. Thank you for inviting me to your program. Let me make it clear at the outset that, I have nothing about Arnab Goswami getting bail.
Sure.
If a court looks at the case and says, look, the facts don't make out the charge, then that's the end of the matter. The man should be set free instantly without any technicalities or, go to another court, go through the process again. Once a court comes to a decision that there is no case made out on the facts as alleged, he should be out. So I have no issue with that.
Right.
What is disturbing is it's the fact that this case received, a breakneck speed. It goes through two courts, two top, the Bombay High Court, the Supreme Court, all in the space of a few days. It's mentioned, it's listed, it's heard. And I have no problem for justice to be delivered that way. But the question is, when you have so many other cases, both of people under detention for far longer periods, and when you have so many cases of vital public importance, which are awaiting the court's time, how do you justify speed tracking this one case?
Right.
So I'm not so much, as I said, against this case, but I want to draw the court's attention to the fact that, look, my lords, we are agitated. We are agitated, we are concerned that there's so many, the important cases of CAA, Kashmir detention, 370. Right. You've just left them languish. You have cases of people in detention. For what? You have Varavara Rao. He's there for 2 years. Sudha Bharadwaj, social activist, PUCL General Secretary, in jail for 2 years. And, in detention, not after conviction, and in detention, under, extreme conditions of hardship. These are people, aged people. One is in the 80s. One is, I think she's 59.
Right.
Suffering from numerous ailments. And look at this, Stan Swami's case. The man is 83.
Yes.
He's got a host of ailments, renal ailments, heart ailments. He suffers from Parkinson's. He cannot lift a glass of water to drink. And he has to go to court to say, please give me a sipper or at least a straw.
Yes.
And that court and the NIA, files, it says we want 3 weeks time for a counter. And a judge gives 3 weeks. What on earth is going on?
What would you say, Mr. Panchu, to those who would say that in the case of someone like Arnab, it was a case of abetment to suicide, while in the case of many of the others you cited, the charges were more serious, like under the UAPA, the anti-terror law?
It's not a question of that. It's not a question. I mean, abetment to suicide is a pretty serious charge, if you ask me. But that's not the point. The point is, as I said, in Arnab's case, the court looked at it and said, look, the facts don't make out the charge. He should be out. For the others, you look at the case and say, well, they've served under detention for so long. Why should they be incarcerated pending trial? That's the point. It's not that just because you're charged with a certain offense, you can't get bail. Of course, you're entitled to bail. And the court, when granting bail, looks at numerous things. Are you a threat if you're let out? Can you hamper the investigation? Are you going to flee? These are the considerations. So it's an entirely different set. You can't just say, oh, it's a serious offense, therefore don't give bail. That's ridiculous.
When you say in your piece that is the court ceasing to be a counter-majoritarian check to the powerful executive in the context of these cases, because look, the implied or not so implied subtext here is that someone like Arnab, as we know, is seen as a blatantly pro-government voice, while many of these others who are languishing behind bars are critics of the government.
No, that statement was not made in the context of individuals like Arnab or the others. It was made in the context that you are not hearing these cases of CAA, of Kashmir, of detentions. You didn't get to grips early enough with, with the migrant movement. That statement is made in the context of those cases.
Right. But do you see that as a concern? That, I mean, is there, because when one sees this kind of selective approach, that here is somebody who's seen very much as aligned with the ruling regime, gets an immediate hearing, walks out on bail immediately. The judge says very important things about liberty and freedom of expression and all of that, but that doesn't seem to apply to others who are, as we know, well-known critics of the regime.
I think I've made that point already, Srinivasan, that, I have no difficulty if you want to fast-track one case, but please fast-track all other cases.
Right.
Fast-track and take up these significant, everybody is talking about these cases. When people say, look here, you have imprisoned civil activists.
Yes.
We all know the 5-6 cases which are being mentioned.
Right.
How long does it take a court to take up those cases? I mean, a court must heed the voice of public opinion and say, yes, we must be sensitive to this. What are people, after all, asking us to do? Nobody is saying release them.
Right.
You're saying take up the case, please, and hear them.
Which is actually how you sort of end the piece, because let's also look for what's the way out, what's the solution. So the solution is it, as you're saying, extend the grace of your early hearing to these people, to Varavara Rao, Sudha Bharadwaj?
That's all, yes, that's all. Extend the grace of hearing to them. Understand that, these are notable cases where people are concerned. And the public is concerned about their continued detention and concerned about the fact that the cases are not being heard. Something comes up, it goes off to some other court, is denied relief for some reason or the other, which doesn't quite meet the, the test of justice.
Okay. Yeah. Let me just ask you in conclusion, because you've been practicing for so many years, what do you think has brought us, I mean, what is the reasons behind this? Why are we seeing this kind of worrisome asymmetry?
That's a very broad question, Srinivasan. You need a whole discussion for that.
Is there a short answer?
Well, if you look at it from the judicial arm, I would say we should seriously relook at this whole method of appointment of judges and how a judge comes to the Supreme Court. And this question of, whether the senior most judge should become automatically the Chief Justice. I think these are important things we got to, but this is amongst a host of other things.
Okay, it is a broader conversation. I agree with you, and we'll definitely get into it.
And a critical conversation, an extremely critical conversation.
And a critical conversation.
Yeah.
But just very quickly at the end, have you in your time ever seen the Supreme Court or the higher judiciary operate in this mode, where there are serious questions about the independence, about whether they are truly holding the executive to account? Have you ever seen this in the past?
I was around when the emergency was on, yeah.
Okay. So
I never want to be at that time when we just stood in despair.
Right.
I was a student of the government law college, and I remember, when we got that judgment in ADM Jabalpur,
right,
where 4-1 the court said that a citizen doesn't have his fundamental freedom or liberty.
Right.
Sat on the steps of that college in utter despair, holding our heads down in despair.
Right.
I never want anyone to visit that time again.
Okay. Well, amen to that. Let's hope that never happens. But thank you, Sriram Panchu, so much for joining us. Thanks very much indeed.